Hey guys, this is Tearless here with another Warlords of Draenor beta video. In this video, I'm going to be doing my introductory video towards tanks in Warlords of Draenor. This is going to be everything you need to know about the changes to tanks that are happening in Warlords of Draenor. The reason why I'm doing this is so that when I start doing, my Guardian Druid videos or my Prop Pally, Prop Warrior videos, you're not confused by any of the changes that I may not specifically flesh out in each one of those videos. I don't want to go over basic tanking changes in each one of those videos. So this video is there to provide all the knowledge that you need to know about the basic changes to tanks that are coming in Warlords of Draenor. Now, in the background, you are going to be seeing some gameplay footage of Grimrail Depot. Blizzard has done a phenomenal job of dungeons in this expansion. I've had a blast playing them. They've been so much fun. You're going to love them, and I hope you enjoy the background as I talk about the tanking changes for Warlords of Draenor. So, the two major changes coming to tanks in Warlords of Draenor come in the form of Vengeance and in stat changes. So, going with Vengeance first, Vengeance has basically been removed from the game. The problem with Vengeance was the fact that Vengeance did too much DPS. The way Vengeance worked was you go into battle, you start taking damage, and then that gives you the ability to gain Vengeance stacks, which allows you to dish out more damage in return. So what happened was tank classes were topping the DPS charts on several fights. This is not the way raiding should work. Raids, your tank is sent in there to absorb the damage, and the healers heal them. They should not be topping the DPS charts in any which way. They should not be beating any pure DPS class out for that spot on the tanking, on the DPS charts. So that is a change that was kind of ridiculous and needed to be removed from the game because it didn't need to be there. Now, not all of Vengeance has been removed. The defensive capabilities of Vengeance have basically been taken out and put into an ability known as Resolve. Resolve increases your healing and absorption done to yourself based on stamina and damage taken in the last 10 seconds. So basically those defensive capabilities of Vengeance have been just, stripped out of Vengeance and put into Resolve. So tanks may be asking, well, what about my DPS now? Vengeance is gone. My DPS is terrible. Well, to compensate, Blizzard has basically upped your abilities and your damage across the board in your abilities. So your masteries now grant some damage increase, and your abilities, like your basic abilities, like Judgment as a prop pally here, or Crusader Strike, they all deal more damage than they used to. So that is a change that has been brought in the game to kind of mediate for the fact that you no longer have Vengeance in the game. They just upped all your damage and so forth. Now, how this affects PvE and PvP, this is going to affect PvE in the fact that it's a nerf, but let's face it, you needed it. You did not deserve to be topping any DPS charts ever as a tank. So, it comes as a nerf for PvE, and simple as that. In PvP, though, I see this as a buff, because in PvP, you'd see a tank, let's say it's a Blood DK, and you're like, I don't want to face him, he's going to take forever to kill. Let's wait until I have all my buddies, and we've knocked out all of his healers and his DPS friends and whatnot, and then we'll take the tank down. With that, the tanks using Vengeance never got the DPS to be able to do anything, so they just ran around hitting like a wet noodle until everyone decided to focus them, and by then you were by yourself. So now, tanks in PvP are actually going to have that damage that they're going to be able to dish out and, compete somewhat in a PvP environment. Now, tank DPS is really going to be around, I would say, 70 to 80% of what a primary DPS spec will be able to do, but that's pretty good considering that you are really hard to kill. And I think the compensation is there, and you will be able to, and you have all the utility as well that comes tanks that you'll be able to put into the game and help, I guess, progress your team better throughout the match. Now, this does come with a downside in the fact that you will no longer be able to, I guess, have as much survivability as you did before. Tanks still are really hard to kill in PvP, so to compensate for this, Blizzard changed it so that tanks will now take 25% additional damage when engaged in PvP combat. So you're not going to be as impossible to kill anymore, but at the same time, you are going to be able to actually do damage, which you've never been able to do before. And so it ends up being, I think, an overall compromise and a buff to what tanks are able to do total in a BGU format, so to say. Now, the second major change to tanks that have come in the game is going to be in the form of hit in their stats. Hit and expertise have been removed from the game, and dodge and parry have been removed in terms of stats on items. And I specifically say stats on items because dodge and parry are still in the game, but the stats dodge and parry will no longer appear in your items. All of your items from Mists of Pandaria back are going to be replaced with bonus armor. So, let's say an armor piece had, parry on it. It's going to be replaced with bonus armor, which increases your armor and attack power for tanking specializations. Now, if an armor piece had both dodge and parry on it, basically what will happen is bonus armor will be changed, the higher stat will be changed into bonus armor, and then the secondary one will be changed into something that's beneficial to the class, such as the new stat versatility, which increases damage, healing, and absorption done, and reduces damage taken. So that's going to be, it's just a little change that's going to be nice. Overall, it's going to make gearing as a tank easier, and your ability to switch back and forth between maybe your tank and your DPS spec a lot easier. Now, the dodge classes, the dodge tanking classes, such as a Brewmaster and a Guardian Druid, they still have dodge in the game. They have it in the form of, like, Savage Defense and in the form of, I believe it's Elusive Brew. That's still in the game. So, to bring the plate wearers up to speed of the dodge classes, they've changed it so that Critical Strike will grant parry. So you could say that parry is still in the game as on armor in the terms of, being an actual stat in the game, but you no longer have to specifically gear for it. For example, my prop pally here is actually tanking this dungeon in PvP gear, which is not necessarily, PvP is not optimal gear for, actual tanking a dungeon, but the stats are there. I mean, it's right now it's the best gear in the game that you can use for testing, but the stats are still there, and I don't have to go get dodge and parry and whatnot. All the critical strike on my gear is being converted into parry, but I'm able to tank in normal PvP, in normal gear, just like a druid or a brewmaster was able to do when dealing with dungeons and so forth. Like, they did not have to go out and get all those special 2 stats, your hit, your expertise, your dodge, your parry. You don't have to do that anymore, which is a really nice change in Warlords of Draenor. When you actually get into the raids, you're going to have to make sure that you have your bonus armor on. You're going to have to focus on things like versatility, but for the most part, you're not going to have to worry about other changes than that fact. It basically puts the plate wearers kind of on par with the dodge-based, I guess, the dodge-based classes in the tanking classes in the game. So it's a nice change. I really like it. It provides more flexibility. It allows me to switch back and forth between ret and prot however I want. If you want to PvP as prot, now the change is simply basically just switching back and forth between your armor, your weapons, instead of switching all of your armor as a whole. So this is everything to deal with tanking classes in Warlords of Draenor. I hope that, I think overall the changes are great. I hope you enjoy the rest of this video of Grimrail Depot. There's not much left, it's just the boss here that we're fighting. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Tearless out.